The legislature is back in session. Thank you, colleagues, for being here this morning. We have a really tight timeline, so let's try to be here on time and rock and roll. So right now we are on Senator Teresa Tulay amendment. It's folks, SB 44 is never going. We don't need to call that out because it's substitute Bill 44, which we know. So I'm just going to go with the subsequent to that. So this is TMT L21 P12. And so at this time, Senator Tulay, you recognize.
So just Mossy, Mr. Chair. So this amendment is on the rainy day fund, but I saw there are other amendments on this in our drive. So I will yield on this amendment to, can we push it to the bottom in case if it's not sponsored by then, I'll sponsor it at the end.
So you have
pass on file or pass this to the bottom.
But you already have other amendments that contain this
yes.
provision, right?
Yeah.
There are amendments that contain this provision,
yeah.
so
we'll just put this on the bottom.
We'll just consider this.
If we could put it on the bottom just in case those don't get proffered and we need this one.
Okay, I'm going to make an exception for this one, but I cannot drag this out continually. I will do it this one time, but other than that, they're going to be in order. If you're not going to hear them, then I'm going to remove them from the drive. One courtesy, and then I'm notifying the body right now that we won't do that going forward, because if your amendment either passes or fails, you got another shot with another amendment that's proffered. So I will give one courtesy, but notice to the body we will not do this next time. So we will go to the next amendment, which is once again by Senator Teresa Tulay, and this, folks, should be TMT L26 P13. Senator Tulay, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, and good morning, colleagues. This amendment is regarding the Pharmaceutical Fund. It's a percentage of the business privilege tax that is dedicated by law to go to Guam Memorial Hospital and be put into their Pharmaceutical Fund. At the hearing for GMH, budget hearing, they had requested that the full 6.19% of the BPT be remitted to GMH, as was intended by the law. And so currently the budget says that what we have predicted in BPT revenues will be remitted, but their specific request was that any funds in excess of the predicted levels, and that instead we use the actual receipts of BPT, that 6.19% of those be remitted to GMH in the Pharmaceutical Fund, as was originally intended. So this amendment says that, notwithstanding any other provision of law, that the 6.19% of the funds in excess of the adopted business privilege tax levels are hereby appropriated to the Guam Memorial Hospital for FY2026 operations, so that they can automatically remit those if there are any excess. Again, I hope I don't need to explain the need for GMH, but this is just one funding source without tapping into any of the other expenditures that are laid out in the bill.
Thank you, Senator. I think what might help, and we'll do this with everyone, if you can please just read the amendment into the record. That way, even people that are watching might have a keen knowledge of legislation. So. All
right, so we're adding a new section D to section 7 of chapter 1 of the bill. This is on page 13. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, 6.19% of funds in excess of the adopted business privilege tax levels enumerated in section 3(1)A of this chapter are hereby appropriated to the Guam Memorial Hospital for FY2026 operations in accordance with 11 GCA chapter 26, section 26208.
Okay, thank you. And just for the notification of the body, and I'll reiterate this, if there are amendments that are voluminous in nature, multiple pages, I will just ask the senator to cite the section of law they're amending and then read what the amendments are into the record, so we don't have to read a verse, just a verse and not the whole chapter of the Bible, okay? So, colleagues, on the Teresa M. Tulay amendment, anyone want to speak? You are recognized, Senator Montanani.
I actually have a similar amendment, but it was going to be proposed under the miscellaneous provisions, so I don't know how this actually works, or if I should just speak with Senator Terlahi. It's similar, but there's some minor changes.
Senator, I suggest a recess. I do believe that this does properly belong here because it is,
Okay.
unless you're identifying another issue which you might address there, but maybe you can work it out. We'll take a 1-minute recess.
Okay.
Legislature's back in session. Thank you, senators, for discussing and working out matters on the amendment. On the amendment, Senator Terlahi, it's still as you have proffered it. On the amendment, anyone on the floor like to speak on the amendment? Anyone want to be recognized on the amendment? Okay, Senator Terlahi, you may close on this amendment.
Cesar Masi, again, this is to make sure that GMH receives in its pharmaceutical fund 6.19% of the BPT that the government of Guam receives, not just 6.19% of what the government predicts today in the budget bill, but what they actually receive. And I'm sure we can all agree on the need for GMH to receive these funds. Cesar Masi.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. On the amendment as proffered, all in favor of the amendment, or are there any objections to the amendment? Seeing and hearing none, amendment passes. We are on the next amendment.
Cesar Masi, oh, sorry.
I will introduce the amendment. Senator Terlahi, you are recognized once again. This is TMT L16 P7. Senator Terlahi, you're recognized.
Cesar Masi, Mr. Chair, and colleagues. So this amendment now is for page 1 through 7. It's that section 2, the BPT rates, and it begins on line 10. So my amendment is actually, and then I also passed out a handout. It's like a table of the amounts that this amendment would affect. So let me start off by saying, so this would affect the BPT rates that are in the bill, where the bill currently says those making 500,000 or less are taxed at one rate. This will change that to 2 million or less. And I will explain. It pretty much, so we're extending the 3% rate to those who make up to $2 million instead of only those who make 500,000. I'm trying to, by this amendment, demonstrate that there is, first of all, a great need. And we've all been in here, we've heard it, we've heard the agencies, we've heard the mayors, we've heard our community, more importantly, tell us about the services that are not being provided well. And we all disagree, maybe, or agree that services should be better. And we all agree with the businesses that they should demand better services from the government. And I've been very vocal about that myself. And we need to demand better services from the government. We need to demand that our money is being used better. And we've got audit after audit showing that it's not being used in all cases very well. And so we need to do everything that we can to work together to improve that. But cutting these agencies kind of just blanketly, to me, is not the solution either. So we need to work with a real compromise that recognizes the shortfalls of both the governor's request to us in January and the bill that we have in front of us today. These shortfalls are based on information from the agencies. They're based on what happened in Congress and how that's going to affect Guam. And I don't think we want to be left with no protection of our environment by zeroing out EPA, no protection of our historic sites, our burial sites without a historic preservation office. I don't think that's what we intend. I don't think anyone in here intends anything like that. I don't think we intend not to fund the Simon Sanchez, and I don't think we intend not to fund GMH as it needs to be funded, or public health, or Medicaid. So I think that the savings that we could provide by making an amendment like this, being more using a scalpel versus the chainsaw, might help us. The prices for goods, services, and housing are extremely high for some in our community, and businesses also need relief that can hopefully reach the majority of our community, especially the most vulnerable. We don't know what is going to happen yet to prices and our economy given the tariff wars and the Trump tax cuts and the federal cuts. I think a more targeted and significant tax cut for small businesses is a stronger compromise in the current proposal. So I'm pushing this proposal that's been discussed before. It would lower the BPT to 3% instead of 5% or 4.5% or 4% for businesses making $2 million or less. Currently, only businesses making up to $500,000 benefit from the Dave Santos exemptions. I requested a breakdown of businesses paying BPT taxes from Revenue Tax. And from their data, we see that there are 1,071 small businesses who make between $500,000 and $2 million, who are currently paying the 5% BPT. This proposal extends the 3% BPT to benefit those businesses making less than $2 million. It would only cost the general fund, or affect this general fund prediction in our bill it costs the general fund $17.3 million. That's about $5.54 million that can be used for Simon Sanchez, the hospital, public health,
Okay,
all
Senator,
the things that we have talked about earlier.
That's your time. Thank you.
Masi.
On this amendment, anyone like to speak on the Terlahi amendment? And I got a question for you. Can you read the? I'm sorry, I didn't do that. Can you read the amendment into the record? And is this graph here associated with
Yes. So the graphic just shows the numbers that would be affected.
Okay.
So the graph, yeah.
Senators, just so you understand, there has been a basically a spreadsheet of the proposal, so you can take a look and correspond it with the proposed amendment. And so go ahead and read the amendment one more time into the record, Senator Terlahi.
Yes. So you want the whole thing, Mr. Chair? All right. So currently
I may have the wrong amendment. Stand by. 1 minute recess.
Yeah. Oh no. What's?
Senators, we're back in session. The chair is going to rule that we are going to hear the amendments as they were received and time-stamped in the drive. Senator Chalahi has opened on and completed discussion on Amendment TMT L16P7. In her amendments, and she'll discuss this on her next amendment, this section is also affected, but it's bifurcated. So what I'm going to rule from the chair is that this amendment's been completely heard and can be deliberated after this amendment, but there will be no opening because it's already been opened on. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to allow her to go to her next amendment, and then we'll deliberate that amendment and vote on it. And then if there's still a need for this amendment, all we'll do is go back to it and discuss it and dispose of it. That's my ruling. Senator Chalahi, you are now on amendment TMT L10P17, and this amendment as well, Senator Chalahi, is the one that has the chart associated with it as well?
That's correct. This
Okay.
is the one with the chart associated with it.
Okay, so Senator, you may proceed on this amendment that I just called out. You're recognized.
So, as discussed, this amendment, I'll read out the relevant portions. It's going to replace Section 2 of Chapter 1 of the bill and put in Section 26203.2 of Chapter 26, Title 11, which is the limited exemption for certain small businesses, and where we currently have taxes levied in excess of those generated from 3% of the gross proceeds shall not apply to the first 500,000. The bill, my amendment changes it to shall not apply to the first 2 million. So in other words, it's the first $2 million that is taxed at 3%, or for those businesses, and then the second amendment here is for those businesses making gross annual income in excess of, instead of $50,000, but not more than $500,000, it's going to be gross annual income in excess of $50,000, but not more than $2 million. So in other words, we're extending the application of tax relief to 3% for those businesses who are making not more than $2 million instead of $500,000. This is to target smaller businesses. The benefit to the smaller big businesses would be greater this way than if we kept the 4.5% BPT. For example, a $1 million business is paying currently at 5% BPT, $50,000. At 4.5%, they would pay $45,000, but at 3%, they would pay $30,000. So with my proposal, the $1 million business would be paying $20,000 less at 3% than what they are currently paying. And a reduction to 4.5% would only be a $5,000 tax savings for them. I think they would be able to do more with 20% in savings than 5%. And we want our smaller businesses to have more so we can create more competition and level the playing field, increase capacity for jobs in these smaller businesses. And the $5.54 million additional revenue for Gov Guam can go towards the critical needs that we must recognize in this bill, like the unaddressed healthcare, hospital, the schools. And so you see in the bottom, I'm hoping we can bifurcate this. This is something to do with the additional proceeds, and this one is to put it to Simon Sanchez High School. 16.377. So if you look at the table, hopefully this shows just the difference in the BPT totals. Look at the bottom chart. At 5% BPT, if we reduce it to 3% BPT, we would be taking out 17 million, and we'd be left with a 374 million BPT total. Again, this is going to help small businesses significantly. Instead of reducing, as the current bill does, for these smaller businesses below 2 million, from paying $50,000 in BPT or $45,000 in BPT, they would only have to pay $30,000 in BPT, $20,000 less. That's big for a small business. Maybe it's nothing for the larger businesses above 2 million, but for these below 2 million, this is very, very significant. And the legislature has done this periodically. We've extended this 3% rate to businesses as an attempt to take care of small businesses, to help them, to boost them in times of need. And if this is a time of need, then I suggest we just be more targeted and we go for the smaller businesses, the smaller of the larger businesses. Again, we have a range right now from $500,000 to $500 million who are under the 5% BPT. So this would reduce to 3% BPT those under 2 million, keep those above 2 million at 5% in order that we spread this need to fund critical agencies among all the businesses and taxpayers. Sus Masi, Mr. Chair.
Sus Masi, Senator. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Gumatauto, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I object to this amendment. I think that if the proffer would like to try to do this at another time in terms of another bill, I think that might be worth consideration of the body, but at this time, I object.
Sus Masi, Senator Gumatauto. On the Therese Terlaia amendment, anyone wish to speak? Senator Parkinson went up first, Senator B. Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this amendment. I think if we are going to be giving targeted tax relief, I think measures like this speak to the right way to do it, where we give targeted tax relief to the lower end of businesses where a lot of those dollars could make a lot of difference. I also especially agree with the notion of sending this particular batch of tax revenue directly to education and to the rebuild of Simon Sanchez. I think that is a very worthy thing to use that tax revenue for and to earmark and dedicate it up front like this. And so I'd like to thank the author of this amendment for having the foresight to not only extend the threshold for small businesses, but also point that money in the right direction where it needs to be. I believe Simon Sanchez is one of the things that has not been really budgeted for in this amendment, and so I really appreciate the direction that this amendment is going. And I just want to speak to the greater point of the imbalance in our economy. We have a struggling tourism market that is trying to recover, that needs some help. We have a lot of mom and pop and small businesses that need a lot of help. But at the same time, we are also an economy that beneath the surface, there are corporations making hundreds of millions of dollars in single contracts. And so I think it's prudent that we really take a good look at the how our tax revenue is weighted and have a more progressive tax system instead of painting everybody with the same broad brush. Because it's really heartening to see the differences that in the 1,700 businesses or so that are making greater than $500,000. $6.3 billion are being made by just the top 1% out of 9.7 in revenues. That is just such a huge lopsided disparity towards the 1% that we really need to rethink as a society how we organize at such high levels, because these high levels are temporary. They're a temporary boon as a function of the military buildup. So rather than using this time to cut our revenues, we should be looking to strategically raise them in some places. And so with that, I support this amendment, and I thank the author for sponsoring it, and I urge my colleagues to support this amendment as well. Let's get relief for the small businesses by expanding the threshold for 3% from 500,000 to 2 million. And let's get that money to Simon Sanchez. And with that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Si Jusmasi, Senator Parkinson. Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Buenas to the people of Guam and to my colleagues. Thank you very much for watching on our YouTube live stream and also on Docomo and GTA. I know we're having issues with the YouTube stream going off and on this morning, so when that happens, if you just click on the TV, that would be an uninterrupted broadcast of this very critical and important session. Good morning. Good morning. Rise in support of this amendment, and I think this is exactly what we're talking about, providing targeted tax relief to the businesses on Guam that not only need it, but truly deserve it. And in doing that, we free up revenues to allow the home of the Simon Sanchez Sharks to proceed forward. There was just a little bit of back and forth in the first couple of days of the Committee on the Whole on this issue with Simon Sanchez. I know that some of my colleagues had been banging the drum and saying that this $16.3 million for Simon Sanchez was not needed. And so I'm very grateful that Ms. Tina, who I hope is eating her kadu today and getting better, was able to come in and clarify that they absolutely need this $16 million to move forward with the home of the Sharks. And I know I don't need to remind my colleagues just how much every single one of us in this body, and even some of our colleagues who didn't make it back for this season, have pledged support for the home of the Simon Sanchez Sharks. And so that's why I think there was some shock from the Sharks community in hearing all that support, all that lip service that we've been giving them. There was shock when they opened this budget bill and found out that they were left completely off the table. And so by doing this targeted tax relief, we free up the revenues to cover at least one of the obligations that's a big sticking point in the bill. For me, there are many other areas. This bill's been called a big, beautiful compromise, and I believe it compromises critical public services in favor of a broad stroke discount on the business privilege tax. And so, again, I implore my colleagues to support this amendment. Let's give small business relief to our struggling small businesses, and then let's put our heads together and huddle up and figure out how do we meaningfully implement BPT structure for some of the bigger corporations on the island that are doing very well. So, and I know that there are some amendments in the drive that seek to do a more meaningful implementation. And so I think this is very reasonable by providing this targeted tax relief to small businesses that earn $2 million and up. We're capturing a lot of small businesses, and I know that this was something that was proffered earlier in the term. And in fact, I believe it was in one of the addresses where I think the governor had asked that we increase the threshold to $1 million. And so when we talk about a compromise, I think we're making a great compromise by lifting that to $2 million and offering this 3% BPT for the small businesses that are struggling. And in doing that, we allow the bigger earners, the bigger corporations to pay their fair share and not jeopardize critical public services, not jeopardize the people of Guam's tax refunds. I think it was very clear, the testimony from the panel, that with the appropriation for tax refunds as is written in the bill, we're going to run out of money to pay the people of Guam's tax refunds. And the only reason why that's going to happen is because we're entertaining a $40 million reduction in critical funds for critical services in this fiscal year, and then an additional $40 million in the next fiscal year. And again, this is coming at the expense of your tax refunds. It's coming at the expense of the construction of the new Simon Sanchez. It's coming at the expense of the rainy day fund. I guess some of our colleagues in here think that it's going to be dry season forever, but there is a big storm coming on the federal funding and cuts side in the upcoming fiscal year. So I again ask us to be prudent in the application of any kind of tax relief that we provide. And I think that when we talk about the narrative that went into this BPT reduction, the narrative has always been, let's help those businesses that are struggling. And when I think about struggling businesses, I think about the smaller businesses. And those are the businesses that I definitely want to assist because in doing that and being targeted, we free up revenues for critical public services. And so that's why I support this amendment. And I commend Senator Terlahi for proffering this solution here in this budget bill. Si Dios masi, Mr. Chair.
Si Dios masi, Senator, and also since you mentioned other bills, there are other bills for the appropriation for or amendments for Simon Sanchez as well in the drive. So you may want to peruse that. So there's a coming together of making sure that that's done. Any senator on the amendment? Senator Paris, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the people of Guam. This is a pro-business amendment. We go into stores and these smaller businesses, and we hear the cries for help. It's like we need the help to keep our businesses going, and these are the small businesses that are actually handing out to other businesses that are similar to them. They're helping their peers get through the hard times. And so this is one way where we can really provide them the assistance that they need. I did the calculation. We would be helping about 956 businesses out there. And perhaps this is a lifeline that they desperately need. And when we think about tourism recovering from tourism recovery, would a tourist want to come and see all these businesses shuttered? It's really about also helping tourism recover, to see that there is a business activity throughout the island. And so when we look at this particular amendment, I think it's important to think about it holistically. We know that some businesses out there are, they help out with other businesses, and we want to keep that sense of community. And this is what this amendment does. It helps to engender that sense of community within the business community. And I feel that this is a really pro-business amendment. In fact, it gives them greater assistance when they really, really need it. If it's a matter of $20,000 versus $5,000 to keep this business alive, I think it's important that we help these businesses, because these businesses have families. They hire workers that have families that depend upon this income. So it's not just businesses, but it's a multiplier effect. And we know from studies that it is the small business that hires the bulk of a lot of employees out there. It's an important part of our business ecosystem to keep these small businesses going. So think about this holistically. And otherwise, it's really hard to come back. Once a business shutters, it's hard to open those doors again. In times of trouble, it's important to keep these businesses open. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a pro-business amendment. And I ask my colleagues to think about the role that we play in our community when it comes to supporting small businesses, as well as the bigger picture of recovering our tourist industry. I mean, every day every week we hear of businesses closing down. And if this is going to help them, Let's keep them open. We have the power to do that. But we need to come together on this. This 3% is really going to help them keep open, not the 4.5% or the 4%. So we really need to look at a tiered approach to how we keep our business community alive and thriving, as well as supporting the community that is also key and foundational to the businesses operating. And not only to mention, these could be incubators, right? If it takes $20,000 more to grow a business into the upper echelons. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, a one policy fits all. We have to think about future development for our island that is sustainable. And this will help prevent us from going backwards. So I ask for my colleagues' support on this amendment. Thank you.
Cedros Masi, Senator. On the amendment, anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? Okay, Senators, I'm going to take a 1-minute recess because as I read the table, I want to ensure that OFB has vetted this. I see some anomalies in the table, and I want to make sure that what's being presented is cross-checked by our financial people. So at this time, we are in recess. Legislature's back in session. I'm having OFB review. The original review right now is it is unbalanced, but it's unbalanced to the favor of additional revenue beyond the 16.3 some million that 300,000 that is being recognized in here. So we'll continue with the amendment, but the amendment does unbalance the budget as projected. So in the favor of additional revenue. So continue on the amendment. Anyone on the amendment would like to speak? Not hearing anyone that wants to speak. Senator Chalayi, you can close on the amendment.
Sizos Masi and Sizos Masi colleagues, again, this amendment is trying to outline how we can help the smaller of these large businesses over $500,000, or what was previously designated as large businesses versus small businesses. And we are growing our tax designation, as was made by previous legislatures, from $500,000 to $2 million by this amendment. And this would give greater savings to these smaller businesses. For those making $1 million in gross receipts, they would be taxed $20,000 less than what they're currently taxed, versus $5,000 less than what the current bill proposes. So this would replace that. And no, we can't do this later, because the current bill proposes that all companies over $500,000 are going to get 5% versus just the smaller ones. All of them will. And once that's done, no, we can't go back and do this later. We will never probably be able to do it again because of the revenues. And I want to do it. We've been able to do it in the past. We've been able to do it with a lot of precise adjustments. But when we do it blanket, we are going to prohibit ourselves not just probably from doing it again for the smaller businesses, saving them the $20,000 on $1 million of gross profits, but we are going to also be unable to provide, and it's been outlined for us in the last 2 days, to no fault of OFB or the governor, who didn't know what Congress was doing. I mean, I'm very critical of all of the government expenditures. I want them to be more precise. I want them to be better used. And I think we have to just keep doing our work in here to make sure that that happens. However, to blanketly cut agencies to not provide tax refunds, we cannot afford to do both of these things. We are going to ruin Guam by ignoring what we have learned in the past 2 days, and prior to that, that agencies are being zeroed out, that tax refunds, we are not setting aside enough, that we are not funding Simon Sanchez, that we're not funding Medicaid, $14 million that we can get from the federal government. We're not going to fund the small portion that we need to match that. We can't do that. We can't give to GMH $10 million less than last year. All these businesses, they want what we want too. They want good government services. And so I say we provide good government services. We continue to do our jobs to make sure they are good, better government services, and that we hold everyone accountable. But I don't want, again, to be here trying to force money to go to GMH, as we did in previous budget sessions, and got so much resistance. And then we come back, 1 month later and say, oh, but they're in an emergency. They are in an emergency. They're in a hole so big that we don't know what we're going to do to recover that. But it's not something that we can come back later and decide. We can't come back later for Simon Sanchez. We need to decide it now while we're deciding all the money that we're taking care of. We can't tell taxpayers to come back later for their refunds. We have to address all of these things. This amendment, unfortunately, is only trying to take care of one out of a whole long list that we've been reiterating. Things that both budgets, the governor's and the OFB's, currently don't address. And so all I'm asking is let's be responsible. Let's address that by using this scalpel versus the whole chainsaw on taxes. And let's get them to do their work and show us, besides the 3 or 4 agencies that they've outlined, what other impacts are there? And let's decide as a policy-making body of the government of Guam, is it our policy that we're going to ignore that environmental regulations will not be enforced? Are we ignoring that? Are we going to totally ignore? I don't want to do that. And I don't think we need to do that. The timing is very bad. And that's really what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with being told in the last 2 days about the agencies being zeroed out.
Senator, that's your time. Thank you very much.
I ask my colleagues to please support this amendment to give us some
Senator, that's your
savings
time.
that can be
Thank you very
used.
much. I need to correct the record because I prepared this budget, and both BBMR and OFB sat shoulder to shoulder here. There is not one agency or entity in this budget that I prepared and that the governor's office came down to defend that is zeroed out. That's incorrect. There may be proposals in the drive, but right now there is no agency that's been zeroed out. That is incorrect.
Okay.
And once again, the difference between the two budgets is $5.7 million.
Yes, just point of information. I'm not
Yes.
talking about you zeroing out a local budget. I'm talking about the budgets that are being zeroed out by the federal government, such as EPA and historic preservation, that are almost 100%
Thank you for the
federally
clarification,
funded.
Senator, and that's why I will always make sure, because people are listening, and some people
Yes.
will only get half of what you're saying.
Right.
So
So those
our budget
agencies-
does not
yeah.
zero out anything.
Correct.
If there are federal government zero outs, we'll have to deal with that
Yes,
correspondingly.
but we've been told about those already, and those are federal government-ly funded agencies, almost 100%
Thank you,
that are
Senator.
zeroed out.
Thank you, Senator. Our local budget does not. On the amendment, there has been an objection. All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by raising your hand. There has been 3 calls for roll call. We do not have a complete House, so we'll go into recess for the Sergeant at Arms to call the House. Sergeant at Arms, please call the House. We are in recess. The legislature's back in session. Senators, unless there's 3 calls for call of the House, actually we can dispose of this amendment via roll call with members present. So at this time, I rule that we call roll call with members present. Are all members present in the House? All are. Proceed with roll call. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, not all members are present.
1 minute recess. Please call all members that are here to come into the hall. Legislature is back in session. Is there a motion for call of the House? Is there a motion for call of the House? In absence of motion call of the House, I will call the roll at this time. Clerk, please proceed with the roll.
Vice Speaker Atta. Vice Speaker Atta, nay. Senator Barnett. Senator Barnett, yea. Speaker Blas. Speaker Blas, nay. Senator Borja. Senator Borja, nay. Senator Calvo. Senator Calvo, nay. Senator Dueñas. Nay. Senator Dueñas, nay. Senator Gumatautau. Senator Gumatautau, nay. Senator Lujan. Senator Lujan, nay. Senator Muñoz Barnes. Senator Muñoz Barnes, nay. Senator Parkinson. Senator Parkinson, yea. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, yea. Senator Salas Matanani. No. Senator Salas Matanani, nay. Senator San Augustine.
Mr. Chair, I move to excuse members not present.
On the motion to excuse members not present, so ordered. Continue the roll.
Senator San Augustine, excused. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, pass. Senator Terlahi. Senator Terlahi, yea. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, pass. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, yea.
Senators, on the Terlahi amendment that was just heard, there are 5 yeas, 9 nays, 1 excuse. Amendment fails. Senators, basically what I did because of the submission out of order, I bifurcated the amendment by allowing the first part of the amendment to be discussed by the author. That part of the amendment has been discussed by the author, so there will be no opening. And this is K, notwithstanding any other provision of law, $16,377,125 is hereby appropriated for Simon Sanchez High School leaseback. I will say that with the failure of the other amendment, there really is no funding source for this, but I will allow the amendment to be discussed. On the amendment, anyone wish to discuss the amendment? Without a funding source, Senator Chalahi, would you like to close on this amendment?
Yeah, I'll just simply point out that this is one of those things that was debated in the last 2 days, confirmed that there is a need, an overdue need, I guess, and we can, be critical that it wasn't funded prior, but it really should be funded in this budget, along with tax refunds, along with the rainy day fund. These are taxpayer benefits that they need these services, along with money for GMH, along with money to get us more Medicaid, free health insurance, all of those things, along with funding agencies that the federal government has decided to zero out. So, yeah, I'm just saying, all of us should be very concerned about this. I know we all are, but we need to act today. Today is the budget. This is when we need to take care of these things. Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair.
Sidus Masi. On the Chalahi amendment with no funding source for this amendment, is there an objection? There's been an objection, and
Point of inquiry, Mr. Chair.
all in favor?
Point of inquiry,
yes,
Mr. Chair.
Senator Taitigui, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, when you're saying that there is no funding source for this, is there another amendment to find the funding
Yes,
source?
Senator, I'll answer that question. In your absence, we debated this amendment, which was bifurcated, and the author had bifurcated it in 2 amendments and introduced her first amendment without a funding source. So I allowed for the second amendment to be introduced so that we can entertain it as a bifurcated amendment. And because the first part of the amendment failed, there is no funding source for this amendment. On the amendment with no funding source.
It was supposed to be funded through the bifurcation of the taxes and giving a bigger tax break to those under $2 million?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Senators present who have been here for the amendment are going to vote, and anybody who comes along, I've explained it, on the amendment with no funding source.
So point of
Is there
information,
objection?
Mr. Chair, the reason why there isn't a funding source is because we're choosing to prioritize the biggest corporations.
Senator, you're out of
over
order.
the students
I've
of Simon
already explained it.
Sanchez
Senator,
and the
you're
home
out
of the
of order.
Sharks.
Senator, you're out of order. On the amendment that has no funding source, is there an objection? All in favor of the amendment with no funding source, please raise your hand. Call for roll call. I hear 1. I hear 2. I hear 3. Clerk, call the roll.
Vice Speaker Atta. No. Vice Speaker Atta, nay. Senator Barnett. Senator Barnett, yay. Speaker Blas. Speaker Blas, nay. Senator Borja. Senator Borja, nay. Senator Calvo. Senator Calvo, nay. Senator Dueñas.
Nay.
Senator Dueñas, nay. Senator Gumatautau. Senator Gumatautau, nay. Senator Lujan. Senator Lujan, nay. Senator Muñoz Barnes. Senator Muñoz Barnes, nay. Senator Parkinson. Senator Parkinson, yay. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, yay. Senator Salas Matanani. Senator Salas Matanani, nay. Senator San Augustine.
Mr. Chair, move to excuse those members not present.
There's been a motion to excuse Senator San Augustine. Any objection? No objection. Continue the roll.
Senator San Augustine, excused. Senator Taitigui. Senator Taitigui, pass. Senator Chalahi. Senator Chalahi, yay. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, pass. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, yay.
On the Talahi Amendment with no funding source, the votes are 5 yeas, 9 nays, 1 excused. Amendment fails. We are now on the next amendment. This amendment is sponsored by William A. Parkinson. It is WAP L16 P7. Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
I don't think I got a copy.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was informed by one of my colleagues that historically we have put this under miscellaneous instead of here, so I want to defer to you if I put it in an inappropriate place.
Senator Parkinson, we are in 1 minute recess to consult with legal and also budget construction. Legislature is back in session. Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After conferring with legal, the amendment to extend the gas relief tax is in the wrong place and should be discussed under miscellaneous provisions. So at this time, I would ask to withdraw my amendment because I believe under miscellaneous amendments, Senator Lahi already has a gas tax amendment there. And so at this time, I would withdraw my amendment and ask to be a co-sponsor on the existing gas tax amendment in miscellaneous.
Senator, as per the clerk, you didn't proffer it, so I'm just going to make a ruling that legal has decided that this goes in miscellaneous provisions and gavel it down, okay?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
This amendment has been ruled by legal to go into miscellaneous provisions. It was not considered, so it doesn't need to be withdrawn. Amendment is not to be considered. Next amendment, based on timestamp submission, is an amendment by Teresem Terlahi and Senator Terlahi, and this is TMT L20 P-12. Senator Terlahi, you recognize on your amendment.
P7-12, page 7 to 12. This is an amendment. It's you'll see all the numbers. This is pretty much restating all the numbers in the general fund availability, with the exception of, if you turn the page, on the second page, we struck through the 2% general fund reserve suspension. So by striking this through, subsection F, large F, would restore the rainy day fund. And as we discussed with the panel, the fiscal team of the government, that they discussed, they were using different formulas to decide whether we had met the cap or not. They talked about the balance that is in the rainy day fund, completely inefficient to cover any rainy day that we might have at this point, and that putting an additional year's deposit into the rainy day fund is going to help us not just to cover emergencies, because that's what it's used for, but to help us to boost our bond ratings. And we know they are doing a bond transaction right now where they presented that this is our policy, that we deposit 2% of all the general funds to the rainy day fund every year. So this is the first budget in several years after we started putting them back into the rainy day fund that is being removed. So this amendment would suspend the suspension. It takes out the word suspension, and that way mandates that the rainy day fund is deposited. So I thank my colleagues for this. I hope we don't have to reiterate what happened after Typhoon Mawar. We had to find $50 million, I think, or yeah, 50 million, or that we sent in an emergency session up to the governor to use in that emergency. She ended up taking 20 million from GDOE in the cash to use for that emergency. This is to provide that cash in emergencies so that we don't have to rob from GDOE to do that in the future for a typhoon, super typhoon. Tidus Masi.
Tidus Masi, Senator. At this time, I'm going to take a 1-minute recess. I've been informed by OFB that this will unbalance the budget, and we have not recognized the cuts because this was not considered in the FY26 budget. So we are in recess. Legislature is back in session in consultation with Office of Finance and Budget. This amendment basically violates the rules of engagement that I had set out from the beginning, that if you are to reduce or increase any revenue, you must find the corresponding cuts. Because this was not recognized in the budget, there is not $18 million plus in cuts that's attached to this, so this amendment is out of order. Senator Blas, you recognize?
Based on that ruling, Mr. Chair, I want to make notwithstanding to make this amendment basically out of order, and motion to remove the.
Is that a motion to withdraw the amendment?
Oh, point
There's a
of
motion to
information.
withdraw the amendment?
I'd
Point
like
of
to
information?
bookmark this for, if in the event we're able to find funding. I think there are other amendments. Again, we're going in the order of submission, not in the order of kind of
Thank you, Senator.
financing. So I'd like to bookmark this.
I object to that.
You
and
object?
I
You said we
object.
could bookmark, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
I
Yeah,
object
it's an
to the
incomplete
bookmark.
amendment as you submitted it, so I'm not bookmarking amendments. I can bookmark a section, but it's an incomplete amendment as
But
presented.
Mr.
That's my
Chair,
ruling.
we can only submit
I've
amendments to
ruled- I've
chapter
ruled, Senator,
1 and
I've
not to the
ruled, Senator,
future
you're out of
chapters at
order.
the same
I've
time.
ruled, Senator, you're out of order.
Point of information, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
If you rule it out of order and there is an objection, they can move for to reconsider the action or override the chairman's out of order. So that's the process that should be taken at this time.
Correct. So
And
the order
please-
right now, thank you, Senator. The order is to consider the motion on the floor. The motion's to withdraw the amendment because it's unbalanced and it does not work according to the rules. On that motion, is there any objection?
Objection.
A non-sponsor can withdraw the amendment. This is my amendment. It's proffered. I'd like to bookmark it if you're ruling it that it's insufficient funding, because there will be other amendments and we can't come back to
I'm
chapter
not booking
1
amendments.
unless it's
I've made the decision,
bookmarked.
Senator. You're out of order.
Mr.
I've
Chair,
ruled-
this is a
I ruled, Senator.
This is a job that should be done by OFB, but if it's
We're
not
in
and we
recess.
have to do it piecemeal, then we
The legislature is back in session. My rules are you can bookmark a section, you cannot bookmark an amendment. If the mover would like to bookmark the section, when we are concluding on the chapter or the opening chapter that we're in, that's fine, but not to bookmark the amendment. It would have to be a new amendment because this is an unbalanced amendment. On Senator Frank Blas Jr.'s motion to...
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sir.
You ruled the amendment out of order, and if they want to rule over your ruling, then they need a vote of 8. But otherwise, you already ruled the amendment out of order, which stands.
That's correct.
So unless there's a vote of 8 to overrule you, I suggest we continue on.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to bookmark this section according to your rules. This section of the bill with the withdrawal.
So if you're bookmarking this section, then I'm going to ask you to withdraw your amendment. Your amendment is not effective.
It's not effective right now. We can pass this amendment right now.
I'm saying, no, we cannot pass this amendment right now. It violates the rules because it has no correlating reduction throughout the budget. That is the fact. You can bookmark the section and try to proffer it again with the corresponding cuts, but you cannot introduce this amendment right now. It is unbalanced, and it does not cut any other agencies that are considered in this budget.
You've ruled it out of order, so we're no longer on that amendment. We're on I'm just asking that the section be bookmarked, the rainy day fund section.
I understand, but we considered the amendment, Senator. You really know how that this works, so it needs to be withdrawn, so you can proffer it again in the proper fashion. All right, do you make the motion?
You made a ruling on it.
Senator,
that
we
said
have
it was
considered
out of order,
the amendment
so
that it is out of order, but we considered it on the floor. It needs to be removed. Are you moving to withdraw the amendment and bookmark the section?
I'm asking that the section be bookmarked according to your rules, that any section can be
this
bookmarked.
amendment.
So that's what I'm asking.
You need to remove this amendment, Senator.
I'm not removing that willingly. You ruled it out of order.
You're out of order now. There is another motion on the floor by Senator Blas to remove the amendment. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion carries. We are on the next amendment.
Is our section bookmarked, Mr. Chair, according to your rules?
You have to make that motion.
I'm asking, no, it's not a motion. You said we can request that any section be bookmarked.
That's right. So if you're making a motion to...
It's not a motion. You said we can bookmark any section. You
So
didn't say it needed votes.
What section are you bookmarking,
The
Senator?
rainy day fund suspension section.
Duly noted. Is there any objection to bookmarking that section? That's been the rules from the beginning. Sections bookmark only that section, not the whole chapter. We are on the next amendment. The next amendment is TMT L20 P7-12 III. This is proffered by Senator Therese M. Terlaye. Senator Terlaye, you recognize.
Cesar Masi, Mr. Chair. This amendment, if you can see, it's down on subsection or big subitem A under withholding taxes. This amendment increases withholding taxes that we are expecting by $7 million. This is in accordance with what Edward Byrne, the Director of Department of Administration, has indicated that our projections in the bill are $7 million too low. He believed it was just an error, regardless of error or not, and that withholding has been actually tracking in FY25 greater than what was anticipated. So this is one of those revenue sources that we are hoping going to continue to be tracking well, and even being conservative, we can increase this projection by $7 million. Again, if you will see, we have to do this piece by piece. If we increase $7 million, plus we increase other areas or decrease spending in other areas, we will be able to make up enough for a rainy day fund, for a tax refund, for other things. But, so this would just be to increase the withholding tax projection. Very simple. It does not impact negatively any part of the budget. It's going to help us to fund critical areas that, despite everybody's hard work, was not included in this budget, and that we, as the policymakers, we need to answer for late tax refunds. We are going to answer for no rainy day fund or downgrading of our bonds. We are going to answer for lack of services at the hospital or unpaid vendors, which we still have. We are going to answer for those, so this is how we're going to take care of it. By taking the advice of the Director of Administration, who is tracking the withholding, who gives us the report on the withholding every month, and who tells us that there is no indication that withholding is going to decrease. But in fact, this estimate is too low, and by all indications, it should have been 7 million higher. So that's my amendment, is just to increase it by 7 million. Again, this is a piecemeal approach to a budget where we're making amendments line by line, and of course we can't tie them together and make it very clear of, that this is a big attempt to address some of those things that were not addressed. Situs Masi, Mr. Chair.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
We're trying to balance this too. Does this amendment even get close to that balancing of what you put together by the committee?
Yes, Senator, that's been recognized again. We are not going to proceed anymore on these type of amendments without OFB. I've recalled them to the floor. They will make an explanation on that. And I will not consider any other amendments that are moving revenue without them saying that it's balanced. We are in recess. The legislature is in recess until 1:30.